Hey, what's up, everyone? Aaron here, and thanks for coming by and checking out today's live stream. I'm going to be switching things up. I know there's been a lot of back and forth in this channel lately, but what I'm going to try to do, and I'm getting some noise from the Telegram feed, I'm going to try to schedule a pre-recorded video and then do one that is a live feed because for some reason, I don't know if it's just the YouTube algorithm, that the pre-recorded, more polished stuff that's not live seems to be getting uh, better search results. So what I want to do is just open up the chat here so I can monitor that. Let me see. We should be connected. Hopefully, I don't know. I'm still getting used to live stream. So this new platform, One Stream Live. So, anyways, today we're going to be. Hopefully, I see your questions. Maybe I should pull up the YouTube channel somewhere so I can see if there are anything comes up. Well, we'll just see how it goes. Anyways, let's get into today's topic. Today we're going to be talking about just get up my notes here, building a successful private membership association and kind of what goes into that. I've had a bunch of calls this week and last week about associations and getting started, and we went to this person to get our association, and we're kind of worried about our documents. We hear what you guys do over at the PMA Manifesto, what you do here on Freedom Frequency, and we're just kind of want to make sure we have everything up and running properly. So we're going to cover what a PMA is. I can talk today, and how it works, steps to legally structuring your PMA, or the proper way to structure it, common challenges and how to overcome them. And then we're also going to talk about some real life success stories. Now, as always, everything you hear on this channel does not constitute tax or legal advice. It's just one guy's opinion on the topic. And so, also it's March is right around the corner. Today's the last day in February. So we will be having our call the first Thursday, I believe it is, with the ladies, the two Angelas over at the PMA Manifesto. We do that once a month, 30-minute to an hour call, and we let you come on, ask your questions, and we field them for you, answer them, and try to help you out along the way. So what is a PMA? Well, PMAs only exist in the search engines and online. They are actually considered unincorporated associations. And my audio sounds very loud today. I don't know why. But that being said, yes, there are private organizations. Just when you look them up, or if you go to your law library at your local courthouse, you look at the law, constitutional law desk book, and you look up right of assembly, association, right of association. That's all in there. You'll never see the term PMA, or private membership association. That's just kind of what somebody coined them. I don't know when, at some point in time. And that's kind of just a term that's kicked around online. They really are unincorporated associations. Now, how they work is you have a bunch of people come together and you say, hey, listen, we are coming together to be a community. We are coming together to further our education on prepping, or homesteading, or self-sustainability, whatever your reason for association is. You have a core group of people that say, hey, we're going to put together this association. I think there's more people out there that are interested in what we're doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to form this group, and it's not going to be incorporated anywhere. It's not filed with this town, the state. We're just a group of people using our constitutional rights to come together under freedom of assembly. And this is our reason for assembly. This is our reason for association. This is what our mission statement's going to be. And then they just start bringing in other people that align with what they're doing. So that's kind of what a PMA is. Now, how it works is it is private. You are not open for public accommodation. You're not just letting everybody in. There's all different types of associations out there. Everything from your VFWs, your American Legions, your Elks Clubs, your Moose Lodges. All those are a different type of association. Yours has a specific goal, and you only want people coming in that are going to support and improve on that goal. So maybe you have a religious group that's getting together. You have a faith-based association, right? That can be a thing. And maybe another video will talk about how it doesn't fall under the tax code or the 508c1a, which a lot of people say it does, and it doesn't. If you want more information on that, check out the the PMA manifesto that we put out over at the pmamanifesto.com. You can get it over there. It's really detailed with all the links and everything. So you have your association set up. You have these people coming in. You don't offer private accommodations. You have your own documents that state how you run. You have all that stuff in place. And that's how the basis of a PMA or a unincorporated association gets started and how it works. Now, when we start talking about how to structure your association, there's a different bunch of ways of doing it. People call it creating their own constitution for their group, but you really want to have what we call your starting documents, your founding documents, your ideas and thoughts written out on paper. Well, not literally handwritten, typed out, or however you want to do it. I guess you could handwrite it, but you want to have everything listed on paper. So you want to have, just like any type of other organization, you want to have your bylaws, your articles of organization, and your membership agreement. And in those documents, it's going to outline a lot of different things, and that's going to be tailored depending on what type of association you have. And I'm looking, I don't see any chats yet. I just want to check something real quick while we're, just bear with me, folks. I'm just pulling up YouTube real quick, and I just want to see where we are at right now. So let me get over to, let's see if I can pull this up while we're talking here. Maybe not. Anyway, so you want to have, I'll figure this out at a later date. It's, I probably should have had this up so I could see if you guys had any questions or comments or anything like that. Not seeing it, so we'll just go from here. Anyways, like I was saying, you have your documents, right? You're going to have your documents together, and it's going to outline everything that your association is going to do and not do. So, and then once you have your bylaws and your articles of organization, you're really going to craft your membership agreement after that. So, the first thing you're going to have your bylaws, and that's going to outline a lot of different things. So again, depending on what type of association you're having, if it's going to be a ministry type based, or if it's going to be a community based, there's going to be different things. So like here in Connecticut, you've heard me talk about it before. We have this state statute that basically says if you have a religious organization, you can provide education to your members' children. And I'm pretty sure they're going to try to change that this legislative session. So I've been walking a lot of different bills. Can you sell plants and other items within the members? Yes. Let me see. Can I show this? There it is. That's a great question. Thank you. And yes, you can. The short answer. And we'll get into that a little bit more about what you can and can't do. Maybe we'll cover that today while we're going through this. So if you're having like a ministry, like somebody setting up a ministry here in Connecticut, and one of the benefits of joining that ministry is not only the fellowship and everything that comes along with it, but you're also going to have an education base for your child. That might be a reason why somebody wants to come and join your membership or your ministry. So you want to make sure that if you are having people that are educating kids and helping out within the ministry, that process of selecting those people, appointing them to those positions, being a minister, that's all outlined within your bylaws and your articles of organization. And that's very important. A lot of these documents you're going to see online from people that we've looked at before, and we've basically, raised the big BS flag on it. Or how should I put it? Bullshit. Yeah, that. Basically, they took documents from one person, copied them, changes out the name, and they all say the same thing. I had a couple come to me about a couple weeks ago now, and they sent over their documents. They're like, you wanted me to look at these? I'm like, I can just tell by the heading. I don't need to look at these. These are copied documents from somebody else, and they told me who they got them from. And I'm like, yeah, unfortunately, you spend a lot of money for stuff that's just been copied, and it's really not tailored individually to you. So the point of this is when you're setting up your structure for your association and you decided you're going to be an unincorporated association, you want to make sure you have really detailed bylaws and articles of organization. And, one thing that a lot of people leave out is if there is a problem within your association, how do you remove somebody? And that usually is said in these other documents by tribunal. Couple sentences past that, and I think is all there is. It's less than a paragraph. That really doesn't help anybody that's running an association. You need to have a whole section on alternative dispute resolution whether it's going to be arbitration, mediation, and all the different steps going through it. So when you get to that point, if somebody's being toxic, they don't align with your mission anymore, they don't align with what the association is doing, you have a clear cut way of how to remove that person from your association. The reason that is important is if this ever does end up, let's say the person doesn't isn't happy, they got booted out, they want to try to sue you for, infringing on their rights, not being let me see, I got something flashing here. I don't know. Anyways, and they say, well, we don't deserve to be removed. We were doing A, B, and C. If it happens to go to court, when you look at different court cases, the majority of the time, the judge does not want to waste judicial time on ruling on what your association is doing as far as removing a member, because it's all laid out in your bylaws. And they're going to look at it and say, okay, yeah, you had all this. Yeah, you did all this. Yeah, this is a private association. It's an unincorporated association. These are the standing rules, bylaws, the contractual agreement that you agreed to. Sorry, not much I can do. So that's what we've seen in a lot of these cases if they do go to court, or how they are ruled. And a lot of this information you can find. I haven't switched it over to the Freedom Frequency yet, so it's East Coast PMA. You can go there. There's a lot of this information on there also. So that's kind of the how you want to make sure you structure it. Now, some people say, I just want to have like a constitution, kind of like our U.S. Constitution, your state constitutions, big long document. I like to separate things into articles of organization and your membership agreement and that sort of thing. So that's kind of the steps to structuring your association. And in that, one other thing I should mention is I mentioned a mission statement. Is you're going to have your mission statement, and that's going to be the kind of be like the goals of why you're associating, what your reason for association is. And that way there, if anybody, questions what the goals of the association are, I say, hey, they're right here, they're written down. This is our mission statement. This is what we're looking to do. So that's important. Now, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm leaving out there. So with the all right, let's see what do we got here. Clarification question. The sole purpose to practice, which is already set up, is to sell farm vegetables and others within the PMA and sell their items. Only advertised is to folks join first. Yeah. So when it comes to advertising or bringing in members, I like to make sure it's by word of mouth. Try to stay off social media. An association should be between you, your members, and a fence post. And yes, if you have something set up, so for example, we have an association here in Connecticut. When we're very active in the spring and summer, and everybody starts getting their seeds ready and their gardening, people do sell stuff like I sell eggs, that sort of thing, and that natural commerce happens within the association. Um, the one thing about, I guess we'll just tackle this right now. One thing about associations, and you'll hear others say, oh, if you have an association, you're outside of their jurisdiction. They never explain who there is, and they never actually tell you what outside the jurisdiction means. It's just a feel good phrase that's kicked around. Really, associations do not put you above the law. You can't have an association and break a law. So when I and the ladies from the PMA Manifesto were down at Polyface Farm last year, we actually debated the people over at Pro Advocate. There was a 2-hour debate broken up over 2 days. And a lot of the things they were saying was like, oh, well, you can do this, you can do that. And I'm like, you just said 2 minutes ago, you agree with me that you're not above the law if you have an association. And they'll try to say, well, it's, a contractual agreement between you and your members. Yes, it is to an extent. If I have a contract, right, and I want to sell weed, if weed's not legal in my area, and I want to, have an association that sells weed to people, you're it's not legal. You can't do it. I can't run a brothel and a fentanyl factory and say, oh, well, you can't say anything to me, federal government or local government, because I've got a PMA and we're outside your jurisdiction. You're going to get a cease and desist. You're going to get raided. All that stuff's going to happen. And if you look at Amos Miller, he actually got his association from the people over at Pro Advocates, and he followed some of their advice early on and really was losing in court because, I don't know, I've never talked to him, but, he was taking their advice from what I've seen in the documents. And you can see that he's using all these types of patriot mythology defenses, and the court wasn't having any of it. And that's why I tell everybody, you really need to take Dr. Graves' course, How to Win in Court Without a Lawyer. That information will be in the show notes along with some other stuff that I talk about because you just having an association, yes, it protects you, it protects your members from having to give out the information of who your members are, certain things like that. But if you're breaking the law, it's not going to help you. Nothing will, unless you're a completely, in a grayish black market where you're doing everything off the books, underground, word of mouth only, that sort of thing. So, and you're working your way in and out of the system. That's how I like to do things with associations. One, I know it protects my members. I don't have to give up their names and stuff like that. So with Amos Miller, he eventually got, an attorney that helped him with things, Robert Barnes, and he's actually starting to win cases. So when I talked to somebody when we were in Virginia and they're like, hey, well, in Connecticut, I can buy raw milk from certain distributors. In Virginia, I guess you can't. In Maryland, you can't. New Jersey, there's all these different areas. So we look at different ways of how to work our way out of the matrix by using one tool of the association and then other tools we have available. So, like, there's ways of selling raw milk, whether it's for animal consumption only or pet use, if it's a herd share, or even if you're using the milk to increase the soil in your gardens, right? There's different ways, and it comes down to labeling. And sometimes we have to work in and out of the system like that to make it work. And that's just one of the things, with what you said uh, about the vegetables and stuff like that. Yes, you can sell that stuff. You remember, you can barter, you can trade, you can do all that stuff within your association. But let's say the local health department came in and said, "Hey, we want to know who you're selling to," or some local ordinance. You can say, "Okay, listen, let's deal with what we're doing that you think is wrong, but I'm not sharing my members list with you." And there's plenty of court cases and precedents that are set that keep you from having to give out who your members are. Right now, if you're doing something extremely illegal like running a brothel, that might be a different story. You still have that ability to fight it, but who knows? I can't play the what if game, right? So I guess we'll just go right into some of the common challenges and how to overcome them. So, like we were talking, if you're looking at, like, at raw milk, right, and it's not legal in your area to sell it, there's ways to work within the state statutes and the codes to be able to still provide that to your members. Now, if you have a very intimate association as opposed to an expressive association, an intimate associations, maybe a few hundred people, you are all invited by friends, you're all, know each other, you come over each other's house, not something like Miller had. He had like over 4,000 people in his association. He was shipping stuff all over the place. That's going to have a different dynamic, right? Those two things. So, maybe raw milk isn't, you're not allowed to sell it in your area, but you can barter it or trade it for certain things within your association. Or if it's between you, your members, and a fence post, yeah, I'll buy a gallon milk from you, and here's some cash and some chicken eggs, or however you want to work it. Now, if you're putting it out online, like, hey, we're an association, you can come buy raw milk here, and it's not legal in your area, that's when you want to start bringing in some of those other ways of doing it, whether it's a herd share or labeling for pet consumption, or to increase the fertility of your ground by using the milk in your garden. So those are some of the things, if you're talking strictly like raw milk. Other things that we've seen as far as common challenges, here in Connecticut, the Office of Early Childhood, state's attorneys comes down on these ministries saying, hey, you're just open for education. There is no ministerial stuff going on here. You're operating an illegal childcare facility or education facility. And we've had 6 of those come up. We've won, I think it's 6, might be 5 or 6. We've won them all so far, based on knowing, hey, listen, that's great. You sent me a cease and desist. Thank you very much. Here's the state statute that we're working under, and now you're infringing on our rights as a religious organization. And that's when you start having those conversations, and you need to know how to respond to things. Early on during the pandemic, there were a lot of people that were, you've heard me say this before, getting taken to the cleaners on associations, affidavits, all this nonsense, because they felt like it was going to protect them. And I would get people from here in Connecticut all the way out to Hawaii, and even Australia. I had a few people I had Zoom conferences with, saying, hey, we got this cease and desist. We're being told by ABC that we don't have to answer. We're not in their jurisdiction. Just throw it out or send them a cease and desist back. And I'm like, well, that's not how it works. So hurry up and go take Dr. Graves' course, so you understand how the legal system works, and he explains it at an 8th grade level so anybody can understand it. And then, okay, now how are we going to answer the cease and desist? What do we have that we can use to our advantage in the state statutes and the state codes. So that's one thing you might have if you're doing education. The biggest pushback we see is through education, and depending on where you are, a lot of it around farming and that sort of thing. So the other thing is, you'll see pushbacks from your local zoning. So we had a group here in Connecticut get set up. They rented out this commercial space, they refabbed it, and the fire marshal had some issues with it. So they had to correct those things. Sometimes it's easier just to play with these people and say, oh, okay, we can only have 50 people in here. We were thinking of 100, no problem, we'll do 50. Because you don't want them in your business. You don't want them there. And sometimes it's just easier to say, okay, do I want to battle this out in court? Do I want to fight City Hall? Or do I just want to say, you know what? I'll take care of this little thing. It's really not infringing on me that much. And I'm going to go do what I have to do in the gray market, black market area, or maybe take that gray market and make it a little bit more white, right? So there's ways we have to weave in and out of the matrix, I guess you can call it. So those are some of the common challenges. The other common challenges I see is, I talked about it earlier, how to remove somebody from the association because, they're not aligning with what's going on, how the association's operating. They're just causing problems, trying to do other things, and you want to have a good way of removing them. And I can tell you there's been a few phone calls I've had where I've gotten that and I'm like, okay, so you haven't read the documents that I gave you. And they're like, well, we looked at them and we signed them. I'm like, okay, well, that's great, but there's a whole in there on how to remove somebody using alternative dispute resolution, right? So that's another thing we see when it comes to challenges. And really, majority of the challenges can be overcome depending on how much you think outside the box or you look at other ways to handle situations. The one thing I will tell you is don't be like some of these other individuals that I've had conferences with and talked to where they've gotten associations from some guy named Mike or David or John or Mr. Smith or whoever they got their stuff from, right? They're like, oh, well, you just don't worry about it. You don't have to answer that. You're not in this jurisdiction. That's the worst thing you can do. Take it head on, answer the cease and desist, all that stuff. Do what you have to do to protect you and your members. And again, just remember if anybody is telling you that you can have an association and do whatever you want, as long as it's not creating a substantial evil, harm or substantial evil, or I forget the exact term that they kick around a lot. Yes, that is taken out of context a little bit. Maybe I'll do a whole video on that. But at the end of the day, and if you want to see this debate, you can go to the Rogue Food Conference website. I think you can get it for like $75. You can watch the whole conference for the whole weekend, and you can see the great questions that we're asking, the debating that we did back and forth. But at the end of the day, that was the thing is, some people try to package up this association as, hey, you can do whatever you want. And that's really not the case. They have their purpose. And, sometimes depending on where you are, it makes sense to have an association and an anonymous LLC because in some states, the association isn't looked at as a separate legal entity from its members. So maybe you're doing something you want to have a little bit more protection in there. Maybe your association's getting together to buy a building. I know that's how some of the different, moose lodges, elk lodges, they'll have their association, but then they'll have a trust that owns the building. So there's multiple layers to this stuff. So just make sure if somebody's trying to tell you that the association is going to, the PMA is going to fix all your issues, it's not. It's just a tool in the toolbox, so to speak. God, I can't say it. I can't believe I use that analogy. I can't stand that analogy. But anyways, so real life success stories, there's a bunch. I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't want to give away the names of these associations because everything I do with these, people when they come to me or we talk or we have conversations, I try to keep it as private as possible. And I don't want to put anybody there and share their business. But, here in Connecticut, our association has, boy, that light is terrible. Sun's coming right in the window. Terrible time of day. So our association in Connecticut has been doing fairly well. We are slowing down in our meetings and gatherings just because dynamics have changed a little bit, but we're still there. We're still actively talking with each other. I'm hopefully going to get a seed share going come mid-March, end of March timeframe. But we have others that, here in Connecticut, they have their ministries and they are providing education to their members' children. They're doing great outreach in their communities. They're having, all the ministerial type stuff you would think of when it comes to a church without being a full-fledged church. And they're able to have kids dropped off and have education done have that, that Christian education that they want to have. And it really gives parents here in the state an alternative to some of maybe like the charter schools or public schools, because in Connecticut we've lost our religious exemption when it comes to vaccinations, and that's been a big thing. There's others that have been set up as homesteads that want to teach different life skills, whether it's butchering animals. They'll come out to your property. They'll show you how to butcher your animals. There's others that raise animals for their members. So their members aren't necessarily paying for the chicken or the pig, but they're paying this associate. They're a part of this association to learn some skills. But one of the benefits is you can pay the association to raise animals for you. You don't have the room on your property, or maybe you're more in a suburban area where your neighbors might get upset if you have a bunch of pigs in the backyard or a cow or something like that. So there's definitely different types of associations being set up all over, and they still have their place. You just got to make sure you're doing it right and you're not buying into some of the stuff online. If it sounds too good to be true, it usually is, that type of thing. So there have been some, real great associations thriving, and there have been some that have failed. I'm not going to make it sound like it's all, perfect. There people got into this early on, really didn't know what they were doing, didn't have any guidance, were being told things, and then they ended up losing everything or going to court and losing because they didn't answer a cease and desist, and then the state just moved forward, or the local ordinances. So you just want to keep that stuff in mind. There are people that fail just like anything else, but there are people that succeed with these things. So I don't see any questions. I think we're streaming on Telegram too, in the Freedom Frequency group. I have no idea. I'm just let me see here. Yeah, I guess that's recording over there too, or streaming rather. So again, like I said, thanks for the questions that came in today. I appreciate that. Sorry we're a little late with today's live stream. It was supposed to be earlier. Just a little crazy here with my business and stuff like that. So again, all my contact information will be down in the description after this is we're done streaming. I'll through and edit everything. If you need to reach out to me, you can. You can set up an appointment for a consultation, either 30 or 60 minutes, and then we can have those conversations. If you're looking to start an association and you don't want somebody to craft the documents for you, I do have DIY templates either on East Coast PMA or the PMA Manifesto. It took us over a year to put these documents together. They are color coded, and I will be honest, I would rather have people buy those and put their documents together with the examples and everything in there, because when people do that, lo and behold, they have a better understanding of what their documents actually say. So I get a lot less calls and trying to help people, because they say, oh, I know what we wrote in our documents. I know we have this to handle this issue, this to handle that. Usually what happens is they buy the documents and then they hire me to go through and make sure they were done correctly. But again, that's not always necessary. And it'll take you some time to put in the elbow grease, but at least you'll have documents that you've written and you know exactly what are in them, how to change them, that sort of thing. And again, it's just an option out there. Try to stay away from people that will charge you, $15,000 to $30,000 for an association. And I had a conversation with a gentleman a month ago, and he was about, I think, just over $20,000 into this one organization. And, it took 2 weeks just to get a response to an email to help him out with some stuff at his local ordinances. So, we don't want that. We all are busy. I do run a mediation and consulting business along with this. So it does get busy at times, but we do have Zoom, we have Meeting, we have different ways to communicate and stuff like that. So it's always great if you need help with something, you can just reach out. But again, those documents can be found on East Coast PMA. Now, I'll tell you this, sometimes the plugins don't want to work right. So if you try to buy the documents and it's not processing it through for some reason, shoot me an email and I will get you an invoice to pay for them, and then get you an email with all the documents that you would have been able to download. I don't know, the website, we had a crash a while back. I moved it to a Swiss server. They're a little bit more private over there. And I've just, I'm not a WordPress guy, so I've been struggling trying to get things to work properly. But that's all I got. Let me just check to see if there's we didn't stream on Rumble, so I'm not even gonna check Rumble. I'll just upload it later. But yeah, thank you for watching. It was great having you all here, and I will see you on the next video.